Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you on this Thursday. Glad to have you along as always. Glad to be here as always. I hope you're enjoying your week, almost to the end of it, which is always a good thing. Looking forward to tomorrow, Indiana taking on UCLA as the Bruins, a historic program, comes into Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I think I would have to check this. This might be the first time UCLA has played in Bloomington. I don't know that for a fact. I'd have to go back and look at that. I wish I would have checked that out, but we can do that later. Glad to have you. Looking forward to Coach Shannon Griffith joining us here in this first hour. Bob Kravitz was supposed to join us, but I think there's a bug going around. A lot of people kind of coming up sick. Bob feeling under the weather, wishing him well, and we'll have him back again next week. How's your day going? And I hope it's off to a good start. Tom Izzo will have to try again to break Bob Knight's record as Indiana, of course, said that on my watch as the Hoosiers went to East Lansing a couple nights ago and took care of business in a very surprising win for the Hoosiers. Happy to see it for them, as a matter of fact, but it was just fun to watch that game. I remember just watching it saying, wow, this is enjoyable. Indiana making great plays when they needed to, especially making shots when they needed to, making free throws down the stretch, doing so many of the things they haven't done so many times when needed. It was almost utterly amazing to watch. But again, happy for them. And speaking of Indiana basketball, reports are out that the Hoosiers and Marquette will hook up in the 2025-26 season at the United Center in Chicago. So Shaka Smart, and we'll have to see who he takes on. So we don't know who the coach for Indiana will be at that time. Also, Kentucky on the schedule for next season. So very interesting times ahead. And speaking of Bob Kravitz earlier, I hate that he can't be with us today, because did you see his latest piece? I was really looking forward to talking to him about this. He's going to try stand-up comedy just to force himself outside of his comfort zone, which, hey, I'm laughing with him, not at him, because I promise you, I don't think that is someone that I could do. Or something that I could do. So we'll see. Good luck to them. Lots of people talking about names, man. Names. Who's going to be that next Indiana basketball coach? Boy, oh boy, is that the heart of a lot of conversations, as it is here on the hot board. Lots of people with lots of thoughts, and names like Mick Cronin. You know, there are certain names that I don't think are viable from a financial standpoint. I think Mick Cronin is one of those. He's kind of locked in at UCLA. It would be very expensive to get him out of that, even if you wanted him. That's the same with Buzz Williams. That's an expensive buy, man. The coach at Iowa State, big buyouts for these guys. Now, the funniest thing is the overwhelming, I will say this, the overwhelming what I will call the regular fan off the street that follows but is not a big donor, I would say the overwhelming choice for them is Chris Beard. And I'm not saying that with any of my own prejudice. I am, there's a poll that on the Hoosier.com that he is the overwhelming favorite there. But it's a small sample size. And there's just a lot that goes into it that I think fans are not privy to seeing everything. Hell, I'm not privy to everything. So it will come down to Dusty May, in my opinion, whether or not, if he turns it down, and whether that's, officially, unofficially, doesn't matter. It will be his to turn down. That's not something he wants to really think and talk about right now, though, because he's got his Michigan squad not only in the thick of, but at the top of the Big Ten race right now. They're alone at the top. That is what he wants to focus on. Now, Ward Manuel from Michigan, I guarantee you, he's been busy getting that new contract written up. Here you go, Dusty. It's all ready to sign. Here's a nice big raise, along with a hefty buyout that he does not have this time around. So it'll be interesting to see how many people get raises out of this. Because that will happen. That's going to happen. Shenanigans says he saw an interesting list this morning. Brad Stevens of the Celtics, of course. Tony Bennett, retired from Virginia. Steve Wojciechowski from Marquette, head coach and assistant at Duke. Chris Carrawell, assistant at Duke. And Tom Crean. Well, what was that a list of? Because that's certainly not a list of anyone that's going to be the next coach at Indiana. Interesting. But Tony Bennett, why did Tony Bennett retire? Because he doesn't want to screw around with all of the NIL stuff. It's not for him. And I got to be honest with you. Yeah, I know he won a national championship, but good Lord, that's like watching paint dry. Back to the pack line defense and offense that scores 50 points a game. No, thank you. Or wake me up when it's over. Kind of a situation. The hell, I think Indiana football will score. If Tony Bennett was Indiana's basketball coach, I think Indiana's football program would score more points a game than basketball. But speaking of football, we'll get to talk plenty of it with our resident expert, Coach Shannon Griffith, joining us up here in the next segment. We're back at it and with it right after we take a quick break. Pause for the cause from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Thankful to have you with us. Back with more right after this.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday, joined now by Coach Shannon Griffith. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. A little snowy up here in the north today.
Yeah.
Snow on the ground.
Yeah, I think your microphone switched over. You're not on your normal deep sounding, nice thorough deal.
Yeah, I probably did something.
I have that problem a lot. Man, talking a lot about basketball. There's a lot going on right now, and especially with Indiana in search of a new coach. I was looking over some scores from last night. Number 19, Ole Miss, 72-68 over South Carolina on the road. Chris Beard, probably the fan off the streets fan favorite to get the job, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And St. John's, Rick Pitino, he doesn't have a shot at it, but man, his team is playing really well. They lose for just the fourth time this season by a bucket at Villanova. Texas Tech, Grant McCaslin, he's a name that's on that list. Texas Tech, 2 overtimes with Arizona State, 111-106. Tech gets the win. But it's funny. These names are being battered around. I will be so glad when it's over, although it's, it should be great for us. It gets to a point to where I'm like, oh, just stop. It's not even, it becomes not fun at all. But that's what you got to do. We went through this last year with football, except for didn't take long. That took 3 days for that to happen. Shannon, this is going to take 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, a little different just because of the season. It's in season, and they probably really will have the opportunity to truly sit and talk to the person that they want to talk to, because they're probably going through agents and things of that nature at the moment. But the big win last night, or the other night against Michigan State on the road. And it's funny how that happens sometimes. Coach makes a decision, or the school makes a decision to go a different direction, and then all of a sudden the kids start playing free, and the pressure seems to go away, and they just play ball, and they go on the road and get a big win against a team no one would think that they would go beat on the road in East Lansing. But it's going to be an attractive job. It always has been. It's one of the premier jobs in the country, so there will be a lot of interest with this. And, hey, it's one of those things that ultimately Dolson will have to figure out what to do.
Oh, I have no doubt. He did a bang-up job with football, and that's probably the expectation for basketball, to be honest with you. And it should be, because it's a hell of a lot easier to get things done on the basketball side than it is in football. And Indiana, obviously, without having to tell you anybody about it, made the most remarkable turnaround one of the most remarkable turnarounds in the history of college football, because this is not a one-off. Indiana is going to be right back at it next season. I don't know how many I don't know how many games they can win. I think that they can win up to 10. That 9 to 10 range, their schedule is very, very difficult next season.
Well, let me see. Does my mic sound better?
Absolutely, boy. Absolutely.
I had the wrong channel on. So, yeah, just see where Iowa named that Indiana will be the homecoming game of this year, which is kind of
always nice. It's always nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things that maybe a couple years ago they already put it on the books that, hey, we're going to put Indiana's homecoming because that's a guaranteed W. Yeah, the sky's the limit right now with the way things are going for Indiana as it pertains to the continuity of the program. I know losing Tino wasn't great, but that's what happens when opportunities come for those guys. But they were able to get another coach in there that's got great pedigree and background. It'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table. And Brian Haynes is signed to be one of the highest paid, part of being a part of the highest paid assistants in the Big Ten. So everything right now from a football perspective is going the way people would think that, would hope it would go, but I'm not sure they will realize how fast it has gone, in terms of the success that they had this past year. But look, every year's a new year. What was in the past is in the past, and you start back at 0-0, and you're still going to have to go win games that maybe some people don't give you a great chance of winning. And everybody's aware who Indiana is now, and there's going to be a game that they're not going to get their best from the opponents across the field from them.
Well, and they're going to have to win some games next year that, or a game at least that they're not favored in. They will not be favored at Iowa. They will not be favored at Oregon. They will not be favored at Penn State.
Right
now, but that doesn't say they will not win at least one of those games. Oregon is just all of those places very tough to play at. First of all, very tough places. I don't think that Oregon was as good as what people thought that they were last year. I don't know how good they really were. And Iowa is always tough. And I thought that was going to be the spot to pick that win up until they picked up that quarterback from South Dakota who throws the ball all over the yard. That's never been something seen at Iowa. No. They're not a program that throws the ball, but I don't think that they're going to shut that dude down.
Well, like I said, I know Tim Lester, who's the OC there. And his background is a balanced offense, but yeah, they like to put the ball in the air. In some ways, kind of like Indiana, high percentage throws, where you're getting the ball in and out of the quarterback's hands and putting guys in space one-on-one. And, they did a pretty good job this year with what they had as an offense. I mean, they were vastly improved from 2 years ago. So getting a kid like that, always elevates an offense, and that's where it starts. It's always about the quarterback. And that's the thing. If you look at Indiana's success this year, it was Curtis Rourke being that type of quarterback that we, hoped he would be. And he was able to do a lot of things. And I watched I'm already back studying some of the games of last year with some of the tape that I've been able to get a hold of. Man, I mean, that kid made a lot of throws that still you just shake your head. Is like, how does he do that? And that's the type of player that he was. And that's what you need. You got to have that guy at the trigger, point to lead the show. And it'll be interesting to see what Mendoza brings to the table from his perspective and his toolbox, and see how he does in this Shanahan offense, because I do think it's quarterback friendly.
Oh boy, is it ever. I mean, we saw that with Curtis Rourke coming in, and if it hadn't have been for the 6 quarters that he missed, he would have thrown for a lot of yards, which he already did. He threw for 3,000, so he probably would have thrown for 3,500. It would have been an even a better looking resume for him.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got a guy that because I saw everything go kind of crazy there for a second. But
yeah, you're kind of froze up for a second.
I'll just keep hoping. But yes, Indiana has really boosted their offensive line, and hopefully that is going to make a gigantic difference for people like the quarterback. That center they picked up from Notre Dame. I mean, man, you want to talk about an anchor. That is a great anchor spot to build out from. But this is a guy that started 13 games last year. It shows they're serious about filling in the voids that they had from not being elite. And they were not elite last year. They were close. They had elite pieces. They had an elite defense. No doubt. They had an elite offense, but not a complete elite offense.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, he's 6'5", he's 300 plus pounds, and you put the pieces in and around him that I think Indiana has, and I think they've upgraded their offense on the offensive line per se, and the fact that this year you're seeing a little bit more Power 4 type of kid come in the door, him being a prime example of that, and Mendoza being an example of that as well. But that's the thing that Indiana is always going to have to strive to become, is that team that can get those elite players at the right spots, because that has been what separates Indiana from the Ohio States of the world, the Penn States of the world. And those are the things that Indiana's got to find a way to get themselves closer to those teams. And a guy like that helps that immensely. And I just think that offensively they did them well, but I'm also impressed with what they were able to do from a defensive standpoint, what they brought in there, keeping Aiden Fisher to be the leader of that group, and then adding some pieces in the secondary that I think are going to be, I mean, those are automatic upgrades. So I look for their defense to be a tough defense in the Big Ten. And I do think that's going to be another key component that will help an offense in playing complementary football, which is what they did a lot of this year.
Yeah, and the fact that this is the second season for this entire staff at Indiana, look what they were able to put together so quickly last year. Now you have more time. You have a lot of the guys that are coming back that's already in place. So you're building off of something that you've already built. That will make it easier or better. Man, I'm just excited for this football program. It's you can tell that there's no stepping back, although they do need to win one of those 3 games, those road games next year. And that's not the only hard game they have. They open up Big Ten play with Illinois, a team who is expected to fight for a CFP spot as well. It's going to be a great time because Indiana, if they can get past Illinois, which is a home game, they're 4-0 going to Iowa. You think that's not going to draw some attention?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I think that, like you said, the biggest test at that moment is going to be the Illinois game, just from what Brett Bielema has done there. They kind of quietly went about their year, had a couple tough losses, and they're going to come in here pretty fired up in the sense that they're going to feel like they are the team that can replace Indiana in the conversation of being a playoff team, and that will be a early marker for Indiana, and the season will be that Illinois matchup at home. And I hope that's a sellout crowd, because that will be a monumental game in the Big Ten schedule.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And Kevin reminding us that you don't know that, Jim. I think that was about Tony Bennett. We were talking earlier. He should have said, "You don't know Jack, Jim." And I would have agreed with that. You ain't lying. No, these are all my opinions. And I'm not afraid to express opinions on that stuff as we bounce back and forth between basketball and football here.
Yeah.
But that's what you do. Grady says Tony Bennett is easy on the eyes. Someone else mentioned earlier that Indiana will not fire or hire Tony Bennett, or Tony Bennett will not come to Indiana because you women fired his sister.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think any of that stuff matters. It is fun, though.
Right?
It is fun. But no, football, I am looking forward to this to next season, because there will be no talk about their schedule. That stuff is out the window. And their home schedule is pretty easy, although they do not have 8 home games next season. They do have the first 4 of the year at home to open up. So that gets you off to a nice start again, which is really important. And having that Illinois game before going to Iowa, I think, is also important, because it's going to give them a test, a stretch to see, all right, where are you really right now? And we'll find out, because Illinois has, was it Altamar? What's his?
Yeah.
Or what the hell's his name? I can't remember.
Altamar.
Yeah. They've got him coming back.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be fun. Illinois was right there. They didn't get talked about a lot for the CFP, but they were right there. They didn't get talked about because of Indiana, if you want to be honest.
Yeah. Don't think that didn't
sit well with
Brett Bielema all that happy either, as he's been firing some shots here and there on the X sphere, especially at Jim Harbaugh and some other ones. But yeah, you're right. That game is an asterisk game for Illinois, and it is for Indiana. I'm sure the talk about Indiana this year will be, can they prove that they are a team that can be in the upper echelon of the Big Ten? And last year wasn't a, joke or Cinderella story, or however you want to look at it. Consistency now to be that big time program.
And not only do they open up with those 4 home games, including Illinois, but not only do they go to Iowa after that, that is immediately followed with a trip to Oregon.
Yeah.
Now, so Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, back to back to back. 2 of those are road games back to back.
Yeah.
That's last year, Indiana, the first 6 games were so easy. They just laid out. This year, with the 2 hardest games on Indiana's schedule, if you had to pick 2, are in those first 6 games.
Yeah.
They go to Penn State later in the back half of the latter part of the second half of the season. But at Iowa, at Oregon, in back-to-back games, man, if you can split those right there and come out of that first part of the season 5-1, you're rolling now and heading towards high cotton.
Well, that's true. And those type of games are going to be hard fought, tough games, physical games, that Indiana is going to be in, kind of what they were in the last half of this past year when they had Michigan and Ohio State back to back. Those are physical, tough ball games. And I think the one big thing for this year, with those type of games, is how do they come out of them? Did they come out of them unscathed? Did they come out of it healthy? And do they find themselves in a position where they have a chance to win ball games, especially on the road. That's the one thing about road football is you got to put yourself in a position that you have an opportunity to win the game, no matter what the score is, or, you need a late score. And Iowa's going to be a great test for that. And then you go to Oregon, which will be another big test. And that's a measuring stick for the program in itself against the top tier Oregon team once again.
Yeah, and Indiana is going to be a team that has a target on its back of sorts next season because of the success they had last year. There are some upstarts. You've got Wisconsin that will come in late in the season. Luke Fickell, man, his job may be decided by then, but it's not looking great for him in Madison right now.
No, there's a shocking deal, where sometimes you think you got the hottest coach in the country and what he was able to do.
That looked like just perfect hire. It looked like everything that looked like a home run.
Yeah.
I feel for Wisconsin fans. I who didn't think that was a good hire?
Yeah, right. And, I think where Luke lost in that early year or two job and in that job was I wasn't all that thrilled that he hired Phil Longo as the coach there to be the offensive coordinator. Although Phil's a really good coach, his style of football just didn't match what Wisconsin football has been. And when they are a team that's predominantly run first, throw second, physical at the point of attack. We're going to pound you. He came in there with a spread mentality, and we're going to throw the ball more than we are going to run. And it just didn't align in some respects with the philosophy that Wisconsin is kind of inbred with is, tough-minded, put the ball down and let's run it again type of football. So and then he had trouble with defense. The defensive side of the ball was kind of in a disarray a little bit as well during his tenure there. But you're right. I mean, he's definitely on the hot seat. And again, having that game at home is a huge get because going into Camp Randall is a tough place to go play.
Oh, absolutely. Caleb pointing out something that, I did see this yesterday, not the Trump administration, but the Department of Education reversed the 9-page letter that was sent out regarding Title IX affecting how this revenue split is going to be allocated. And, they had said, well, it has to do this and that, blah, blah. Everything's got to be equal, which is stupid.
Right.
And now the Department of Education has come out and says, well, you know what? Title IX actually has nothing to do with that. It does not address that, which it does not. And it has nothing. One has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
Common sense. So, but that's a great place to pick up. When we come back, we'll take a break here. But that matters because all of these schools and programs and already kind of planned. All right, well, we can allocate so much money to football, for example, so much to men's basketball, because those are the generating revenue generators, people. It has nothing to do with anything else other than who's bringing in the money. Just think about it. It's just like real life business. But we got to take a break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Coach Shannon Griffith is with me. We're back with more on the backside right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Coach Shannon Griffith alongside on this Thursday, and talking about the reversal of the Department of Education on how they interpret the Title IX ramifications into the revenue sharing House bill that were, it's the House, is it the House bill? Is that what it's called? I can't remember. There's so much. Confusion now. That is expected. Still has not passed completely. I think that's coming up in April. April 7th, I believe, is when it is next on the docket to be approved. And if so, schools will have $20.5 million per year to split amongst their athletes how they see fit now. It is not going to be governed by anything. By anything, I meant by the guardrails. They can give it to whom they want as far as their athletes, and pretty much how it should be. They know how the money comes in. They know what is where the money is a derivative of, and most of us do as well. Football is the engine that drives the train, with men's basketball right behind. So that is where the bulk of the money will go to. Now, I don't think that's not going to end. NIL, I believe. I mean, that will continue, because that's going to make the difference between if it ended NIL, then we'd be back to everything being equal. That is not going to be the case, people. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, they do not want equality. They want to always be above and beyond everybody else, and so that's why you will continue to see Ohio State have a $30 million payroll they had.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a lot.
So, and that will continue, and that's, with the help of that 20 million, but I don't know how much that may. Now, see, this may help a program like Ohio State. I'm just using them as an example, who already has a great NIL program for the football team, that they don't need as much as that 20 million. So some of that, a lot more of that 20 million could go to other sports, other places, and make them more successful in more sports.
Yes. I think the biggest thing that the settlement's going to help in some ways is define what NIL really is. That NIL is, a kid can have a contract with, Adidas. Let's just use that as an example, and get paid because he wears Adidas. That's and that's kind of what it is. Or, all these different things that you see on social media that they want him to be a spokesman for, and they can sign a deal with those individuals, which is totally on the outside of the control of the head coach or whatever. Now, I'm sure there are some that kind of direct some of that, but like Indiana has the Hoosier Connect, that's all directly tied, back to Indiana. And you see several kids sign with them, and you've seen some releases that they've signed so-and-so and so-and-so as it pertains to football for next year. But that's the only thing that right now is still a little bit up in the air, because like Coach Signetti has no control over what happens in the NIL arena when it comes to the different collectives that programs can have and, people set up. The Hard Truth Distillery could set up a collective that's going to, pay someone on Indiana's football team to be a spokesman for them. And that's the thing that I think is a little bit concerning with, but it's going to be an interesting deal, because it's forever change the sports of football, basketball, all of the above, and that we're entering an arena that very little do we know about in terms of things of this nature. And they're going to have to adopt something to the NFL type of standard where they try to level the playing field with different caps and things of that nature. Otherwise, it's going to be the wild, wild west, and it will ultimately destroy it.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. And now, of course, right now the talk at Indiana is all about basketball, but it's because of a new coaching search that's actually underway right now. But when I say it's underway, due diligence, checking these guys that is on the list that Scott Dolson has, whatever list he has created, background checks, and also just back channeling to see if there's interest. I mean, explain to people how that happens, because they cannot talk to coaches right now. And I saw someone yesterday mention that that's why so much of this stuff gets out there, and people print stuff out there. And I'm not talking about reporters. I'm talking about people that are not reporters, but are trying to be one, I guess, for lack of a better word, that there was a gentleman's agreement in place. And I'm like, that's the most idiotic thing I've heard, because that breaks every written and unwritten rule and law that there is. No, if you're under contract, and every coach that you're going to talk to has a contract right now, therefore you can't be talking to anybody else about a job. That's grounds for termination, and which you will be on the hook for your own buyout back to the school. But there is back channeling that goes on. That's what agents are for.
Yeah, that's
and that's how that happens.
Yeah, the agents are the ones that garner the interest of who is or who isn't. And I'm sure Scott Dolson has fielded calls from many different ones, as well as reached out to different ones. But that's how they garner who may be interested and who may not be, especially those that are at other programs that may be high on the list of consideration. They'll find out through agents. That's that's how that stuff happens. We saw it happen with Brian Haynes. I mean, that the fact of the matter is his agent was telling him who was interested, A, B, and C, and and after the season, they can do that. When the season's concluded, that's when you'll find who is and who isn't naturally involved in the mix as it pertains to finding the person that's going to lead the program. And that's what this background stuff, all that stuff is all being handled interdepartmentally with Scott and his team, but they're fielding and talking to agents of prominent coaches to get the feel if someone would be interested in the job, and are garnering what it would take for someone to be interested in the job monetarily. So those are the conversations that are going on. I don't say anybody has any idea who is or who isn't in the driver's seat at this moment. But it's fun to speculate. And that's what we love about college athletics, is the speculation of what may or may not happen.
And no pun intended, but what may happen is Dusty May is, I think it's his to turn down. That's just my opinion. I think that he has to be the number one candidate for Scott Dolson, just because looking at all the different stuff, he doesn't have baggage. He's a favorite son. He's successful. He's shown that he can win with talent, without resources, with resources. And so there's just no way I don't see him as being the number one candidate if he is amenable to it, if he wants it. I think that it's pure and simply his job if he wants it. Does he want it? Now that I don't know. Did he want it last year? Well, hell yes. But guess what? That has changed. He's at Michigan now. He has a job, a good job, and he's very happy, and he is. That doesn't mean he won't leave. Doesn't mean he wouldn't leave. Doesn't mean he will leave. So, but he's focused on winning a Big Ten championship right now.
Right.
He's in a place to do what all these other coaches are trying to do, and some of these coaches have never done. He's in his first year, and he's leading the Big Ten right now with 6 games to go. He's focused. He has a job, and he's doing that job at the moment. So that's part of what is going to, that might make it harder for him. So if he wins the Big Ten title, that may make it harder for him to leave Michigan. I don't know. Well,
one thing's for sure. He's going to get a very big payday because he's got leverage, possibly winning the Big Ten regular season. And then the fact that there may be a school out there willing to come in and pluck him away. So he'll have, the leverage and all that. And I'm sure Dusty has maybe made it known to his own agent, whether he would be interested or not in the Indiana job. And, again, these are how the back channels work. And that will be a key component is, does he have an interest? And if he does have an interest, then what are they potentially going to look at salary wise, especially if a coach that's been successful? And like I said, Michigan has its own resources to come right back and say, we'll do this, this, and this. And especially if they win the Big Ten and then they get in the, the tournament of the Big Ten, do well there and get in the, the field of 64 and show well there as well. It makes it harder to pluck a guy away from the success that he's having. But again, we don't know his heart, in that regard. Is it just so much that it's for him, it's Indiana. It's all about that. That's where he went to. That's his, dream job, probably. All those things that we don't have any absolute knowledge of.
And everybody has an opinion. I mean, every 5 different people you see up here, you'll see Chris Beard is, if you're not hiring Chris Beard, you're not serious. Then the next person is, Chris Beard is a non-starter for me. And it's not because of his coaching. It's, the baggage that he brings. And I've seen a lot of people try to justify that away, and I'm not judging. I think that he deserves a second chance as well as anybody, because I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I'm also not going to pretend that nothing happened. I'm not going to act like I'm stupid and, nothing happened. Something happened. Now, he may have been at fault. He might not have been at fault. But it doesn't matter. It's there. He got himself into that position. And I'm not judging. I think a lot of us have put ourselves in bad positions in a lot of different ways. I certainly raise my hand. I'm not perfect. So it's not about that. It's what Indiana can do as far as what is best for them as a university. It's not just about winning. I don't think that if you have Dusty May and Chris Beard, I don't think that both of those coaches are winning. Right. Both of those coaches have been to a Final Four. One of those coaches in his first year has taken his team and challenging for a conference championship. Now, I'm not doing that as a knock, but so you can't say that one's better than the other and one has had more success than the other. It hasn't. And someone asked, well, who is my pick? I don't really have a pick. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that you can go wrong between Beard or May if you had either one. They're very different. They're very different styles, but they both have one commonality. They win. And so you have to look at things like, how will the next coach do with these big money donors and things like that? There's so much stuff that goes into it, but there's a lot more than most people realize. There's more to it than even I know about everything that Scott Dolson, there's probably a list of 50 different things he has to go through on someone. So it's just not as simple as we'd like to make it out to be. But yet at the same time, you look around and Michigan didn't have a problem filling their position. Louisville, Kentucky, all made the right moves. Yeah. Even Arkansas, it worked out with, look at Florida, Todd Golden. Man, they're number 3 in the country. So it's there. Just have to make the right move. What's up next for you, brother?
Hey, man, we're just trying to get ourselves geared up for, the off season with all the football stuff that's going on.
Football. What was that? 64 days away? Is that what?
Yeah, something to that effect. And right now is really kind of a dead period in a lot of things because of what's going on. There's just the winter workouts and stuff. What I'm trying to do right now is put together the RPO game that Indiana had this success this year and talk about why Curtis made that decision, or was that a wrong decision, right decision in the RPO
Well,
game?
I can't wait to talk about that next week.
Well, give me some time.
Like you've got some homework, man.
I'm going through it. Got to set it up with the film. Got to have all
you go by game by game. We can go game by game, maybe something like that. Appreciate you as always, my friend.
You bet, partner. Good luck this week.
Absolutely. Coach Shannon Griffith joining us here on the program, and that is going to wrap it up for this hour. We've got more coming up, including the great Chris Denari. Talk some Pacers basketball, and Joe Hillman joining us in the next hour. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company's studios on this Thursday, and still a bit chilly, as you can see if you're watching by Chris Denari. Got the boggin on, man.
Well, it was a late night, Jim. I got to bed at 3 a.m., so I am up and ready for you. It was a long flight back from Washington, D.C., but fortunately it was a good flight back. Another massive comeback win by the Pacers. They trailed by 19 in the third quarter. Against the team with the worst record in the NBA, but they made a club record 23 threes last night. So great opportunity to get the win. 30-23 at the All-Star break, firmly in 4th place in the East. And when you think about it, 2 months ago, the Pacers were 10-15 and 11th in the Eastern Conference. So I think when all is said and done, the first 53 games have gone well. Chance to rest now, come back next week for the final 29.
Yeah, had they lost that game going into the All-Star break, that would have just been a downer for a number of reasons. Not losing going into the break, number one, but losing to a team of that caliber would have kind of not have been a setback, but it's like, dude, here you go again. That was like losing to Charlotte or whomever it was back earlier in the season because they've had such a good run going now. But they were able to keep that going. They did trail for the entire second half until they made it happen, but that shows the resiliency and the fact that having that winning attitude of getting it done no matter what.
No question. You had some great performances off the bench. Obi Toppin had 31, 10 rebounds. Benedict Mathurin had 28. They just carried the Pacers when they were struggling, especially offensively. But to your point, this time of year is a tough time of year when you think about the NBA. It's, people talk about the dog days of college basketball in January. Well, this is sort of the dog days. The Pacers have been on the road so much. They were in Paris. You're looking at an all-star break where you can get away, for 4 or 5 days to recharge the batteries. And then you're playing the team with the worst record in the league. And as Rick Carlisle said after the game, look, they play with no fear. Record doesn't matter to them. They've got a bunch of young guys. They had 2 19-year-olds in the starting lineup, a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old. So they're just out there playing free and easy. And so I think it was very important for the Pacers to be able to come back, get the win. I know it took overtime, but the important thing is they got the win before the break.
Yeah, and so talking to Dustin Apiric, the Indy Star beat writer, it seems like this is a great time for the Pacers to get a break. That he thinks that the fatigue is starting to show a little bit from going to Paris and all of the West Coast trip and all that. And that this is a perfect time for most of the team to get a break because they only have one guy in the All-Star game, I think.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think this is the perfect time. It's a good way to get it off a win. You're right. I mean, January, they had the best record of any NBA team in January. We're pretty dominant. They led 7 of the 10 games by 20 or more points. February, they've not been as dominant. January, they were 10-2. February, they end at this point 4-3 and had a number of comeback wins. So, yeah, I mean, the season catches up to you. You're not going to be able to sustain all the things that you did in January, in February, March, and April. You're going to hit some down cycles. And so I still think it's really important that the Pacers, even in this stretch of games, these last 7, when they trailed the majority of the time, they were still able to get wins. And so in 3 of their last 5 road games, they trailed by 15 in Utah. They trailed by 24 against the Clippers. And last night they trailed by 19. And you're able to win the game. That's still very important, and I think will help this team as they move forward.
Absolutely. And it's looking good for them right now. And the fact that they don't have a lot of guys involved in the All-Star game is probably not what you want from a perception standpoint. But again, allowing them all to mentally rest as well as physically is huge because there's a lot that goes in on the mental side of this game.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think this, is really good for the Pacers. As you said, there's one player representing Indiana, and it's Pascal Siakam, which I think is great for the franchise. Pascal, committed over the summer that this is where he wanted to be after the Pacers made the trade for him last year. So it's exciting for him. But I think the other thing is, Jim, if you think about Tyrese Halliburton has really been on the go for the last 12 to 18 months. He was sort of the host last year for the All-Star weekend in Indianapolis. He played in the Olympics in Paris. I just think this comes at a really good time for Tyrese and probably for a lot of his other teammates. So I agree with you. While you'd like to see more representation just from a marketing standpoint, I think what's happening this week is the best for the franchise. Pascal will do a great job representing the Indiana Pacers, and the other guys can head to wherever they're going to go. Some will stay home. Talk to TJ McConnell. He and his wife and 2 boys will go to Pittsburgh for the week to see both of their families. It's just a really good chance for all of these guys to re-energize and get ready for the final run of the year.
No doubt at all, and looking forward to that. So what do they do during this time off? Is it just go home and chill? Are there any team activities?
No team activities until the Pacers play a week from tonight in the return after the All-Star break, and that's against Memphis. So it's Ja Morant and Desmond Bane and Zach Edey will be here a week from tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. My guess is players, I think they will practice late Tuesday night, so everybody will have to be back in town on Tuesday night. My guess is because of Pascal Siakam's All-Star commitments, he might not have to be back until Wednesday morning, and then they'll have a practice on Wednesday ahead of Thursday. But when you talk to the players, a number of them said if they stay in town, they'll still be in the gym, still get their workouts in, but it's not the same as playing 3 games in 5 days or 4 games in 6 days. It's really a chance for these guys to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the back side of this. It's not even the back half because the season's already more than halfway past, right?
Yeah, there's the Pacers have played 53 games. They're 30-23 and 4th in the East. There's just 29 games left. The good news is, Jim, they played the majority of the first part of the schedule on the road. 31 of the first 53, 29 on the road, 2 in Paris. So of the final 29 games, 17 are at home. And if you get to March and April, when you have that final 15-game stretch, 11 of them are at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So hopefully that works out to a great advantage for the Pacers. They've been good on the road. They're 15-14, a game over 500 on the road. They've won about 67% of their home games. So if they can continue to do that the rest of the way, this is a team that possibly could get to 50 wins, but probably more likely will be in the 46 to 48 range. Last year they won 47 and they were the 16. They should, if they take care of business, they should be at least in the top 6. But right now they're 4th. And if you're 4th, you have home court advantage in the first round, and that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely. I know that the Indiana college Hoosiers are not your beat, but per se, but you also are always in the know. And of course, there will be a job opening at Indiana at the conclusion of this season. One of the names that people of Indiana fans like to bat around is Brad Stevens, and is it just that's a pipe dream in my estimation for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's with one of the most storied franchises in all of sports, period. He makes $11.2 or $3 million a year. And the difference between being president of an NBA franchise and being a college coach, it's like being the president and being a governor or something along those lines. I don't see him returning to the college game as a coach, at least no time, unless he gets bored later in life, in my personal opinion. A lot of people are wanting to talk about it because new ownership is apparently coming into Boston. And then so there a lot of people like to use that as a possibility, but I just don't see it. Even if he were to move on from the Celtics, I think that another franchise would grab him up because of his success.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Brad a long time, and I would never say never. I mean, I can't speak for him, and I don't know, what his thought process to that would be. I know he very much enjoys the NBA game. He was a terrific coach, and he's been a terrific front office person. I mean, they won a championship last year. They're in position to potentially win another championship. He's one of the smartest basketball minds that I've ever been around. So there's no question that's why Indiana fans would like to see him come home and to see him, return to college. Personally, I don't see it, but I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I just think he's very happy with where he is. And clearly, the person made a point that, Boston could be going through an ownership change. They are up for sale. But I would assume that any new owner is going to look at what Brad Stevens has done running that franchise and would want to keep him right in the position that he's in. So, it's just interesting. I sit from afar and watch all the speculation about what could happen in Bloomington. Clearly, Brad Stevens is a basketball savant in my mind, but I think he very much likes doing what he's doing in the NBA. We'll just have to wait and see how the process plays out.
Oh, absolutely. And because another part of the equation is, even from the college coaches who are mostly, that's where this is probably going to come from, but they all have jobs currently. They are all or under contract currently, and they are all coaching currently. So it's very difficult to do anything when you're in that position. I know there's back channeling that goes on with the agents, and there are conversations that are had. It's not like it doesn't happen, but and I've talked about this with Dusty May. He is in an unbelievably great position of leading the Big Ten Conference right now. So he has to stay focused. And because if he doesn't, that comes through to his team. And he knows he cannot lose focus. And not that he would. He is a competitor. He wants to win. He wants to win a Big Ten championship, which he's very with only 6 games left, that's a great possibility. They play Michigan State twice, and Michigan State plays Purdue, but it's going to be fun to watch this end come out. But what a great year for Dusty May and someone that's from Indiana.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we all followed what he did down at Florida Atlantic and now what he's doing at Michigan. It's been fascinating to watch. There's no question about that. They had a big win over Purdue the other night. What about Braden Smith? I tell you what, I'm a Westfield alum. 40-some years ago, I could have never believed that Westfield High School would have a Mr. Basketball, and let alone a player of the caliber of Braden Smith, who is leading Purdue. So, I watch a lot of college basketball in and around what I do in the NBA. Always fascinated about what's happening in our state. basketball just means more when the teams in our state are doing better. And that's why, for me, it was good to see Indiana go up to Michigan State and get the win. I mean, it just helps when all those teams in the state of Indiana are winning. I remember some of those years where the state had 3 or 4 teams in the NCAA tournament, and clearly we'd all like to get back to that.
Absolutely. It will be fun. And because, and I keep telling people, whether they want to hear it or not, people like, if it's basketball, they want to see the Celtics and the Lakers or the Warriors. They want to see those teams be good. You want to see the Michigans and Ohio States in football be good. In college, you want to see they want to see the Kansases and the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Indianas going at it. And it's good for college basketball to be, for Indiana to be good, I think, along with these other teams. So it's time for them to get back to that. But boy, it would sure be good for the fans, because I know they want it.
No, I'm sure they do. I mean, you're right. I think we all I think NBA fans loved watching what the Pacers did last year. No question. They're not the Lakers. They're not the Knicks. But I do think sports is better when you have that perfect mix, that you've got those marquee franchises that are really good, and then you have those up-and-coming franchises that are good as well. And I think that's the same in college basketball. We love the Butler story from many years ago, going to back-to-back national championship games. But fans like to see Duke and Carolina and Kentucky and Indiana and all those kinds of things. So it's really a mix. When you have all of that working together, that's when it's at its best.
Absolutely. Brother, I'm glad you get some travel days off.
Yeah, looking forward to it. 6 of the 7 out of the All-Star break are at home, and I think the only trip is to Miami at the end of February. So from today until I think the first week in March, I'm just on the road one time. And that's been hard to say over the last month plus, where the Pacers have been on the road a lot. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely, buddy. We appreciate you as always. Chris Denari.
All right, thanks, Jim.
You betcha. We've got more coming up. The great Joe Hillman joins us next on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company's studios right after this break. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday, and so fortunate to be joined by a great friend of the show, Joe Hillman. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How you been?
Cannot complain, man. How is the finance world?
Well, it's a little volatile right now. Who knows what's going on with interest rates and tariffs and inflation? Who knows? No,
Yeah,
everything's
funny.
good.
All that stuff is happening right now. And now I know a while back you had to change the company name, so I want to make sure we have that right.
Well, it's now Strive Financial Group. We made a branding change. So same guys, just wanted to go a different brand, and we moved offices, and so it's all good. Yeah, things are going great.
And if someone wanted to reach out to you for financial help, where would they find you?
Well, they could find us at www.strivefg.com. So STRIVEFG.com.
Well, and you know that somebody like Joe Hillman strives to be the best. That's where you should reach out, my friend. Obviously, things have not gone well for the Hoosiers here this season and over the last couple of seasons, and there's looks to be a coaching change coming. They do have play not only their best game of the season the other night, right after this announcement came, but probably their best game in a couple of years, to be honest with you, Joe.
Well, it might be their best win.
Yes.
Probably their best win. I don't know how great they played, because I actually thought they played better up at Purdue, except for the last 4 or 5 minutes. But they kept it simple on Tuesday night against Michigan State, and they got away from the high pick and roll, and they just said, we're throwing the ball inside and we're driving the ball to the basket. And even though this is going to be considered a great win, I have to say this might be the best job that Tom Izzo has done with a team ever, because this team can't shoot. They have 0 shooters, and yet the ability for them to get to the foul line, they play fundamentally sound defense, they block out, they rebound, and that's why they're where they're at, and where IU is where they're at, because we don't do those things, even though we don't make shots either.
Yeah, that was a fortunate thing that it did not come down to 3-point shooting, because neither team could throw it in the ocean from a boat the other night. But fortunately, Michigan State couldn't stop Indiana's inside game. And it was the first time that Mike Woodson did not start Ballo and Renew without Renew being injured. So that was a good thing to see, because and how about that zone defense? What the hell? We don't see that from Indiana very often.
Yeah, that changed the game, really. Indiana couldn't stop any drives early on. They were kind of getting to the rim. Big men were having to come over and help, and they were getting some offensive rebounds. They went to the zone and completely changed the whole the momentum of the game, and Michigan State couldn't make any shots. Indiana went to a zone the game prior to a little bit, and did that against Michigan in the second half, and that seemed to help. They just do a terrible job of guarding anybody off the dribble, and it's hurt them all year. So I'm really interested to see if they stick with this zone against teams that have some shooting, and then I would be shocked if you see 2 big men in the lineup at the same time for here on out.
One would think and one would hope, but that has not always been the case. But it amazed me, though. They were playing a zone, but they were playing better. They seemed to be playing better matchup defense in the zone than they did when playing man-to-man defense. So it's just kind of crazy how things go with that team, and maybe that's what they needed to get that spark. We'll find out. I think Joe Hillman, we lost Joe for a second. He'll jump back on here. But, yeah, when I was watching that game, the amazing thing, one of the amazing things was watching them play defense. And I couldn't believe how tightly they were, and everyone was adjusting, because when you see them playing man-to-man, they were playing a lot looser. They gave up a lot more 3-point. Well, they still gave up 3-point attempts, but they weren't going down for Michigan State, and I don't know if that was the reason or not. We'll see if we can get Joe back on, and hopefully he'll rejoin us here in a second. Enjoy talking to him and looking forward to hearing his thoughts on what has gone on this season. Then we're going to talk about, you know what, those potential Joe, you still there by chance? All right, he'll have to rejoin us. We'll get him to we'll get him to rejoin here in a second, which I'm sure he will. But yeah, watching that defense was spectacular. Now, can Indiana continue that? Will they continue using the zone like Joe just suggested? I think that they should. Now, of course, that matters, is dependent upon the matchup of who you're playing, the personnel that team brings, and what they do. Will it work? Well, Indiana just looked like they played better overall defense, period, with the zone. It's kind of odd because Indiana has been known as a man-to-man team forever. And and for a team that doesn't play that, to be able not only to implement it and play it so well, that was pretty interesting to see. Also, the fire that Indiana played with, surprising, and hopefully they can continue to do that. Joe Hillman jumping back on here in a second. We'll look forward to that. We'll go ahead and take a break and see if we can get everything back aligned out. We've got more coming at you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hey, welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Joe Hillman with me. And Joe, sorry about that, man. That's just, you know how it goes. We're talking about Indiana basketball. You know, weirdly enough, they still have an outside shot to make the NCAA tournament, as crazy as it sounds. And it is kind of crazy, but you look back now, if they could have just gotten that Maryland and or Purdue game, they would have an even a more realistic shot.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, those you look at those 2 games where they just didn't close out at the end. We were talking about that in the office today. You win both those games, you are in. But they played 3 games in a row at home. And I guess they may have an opportunity if they win all 3 of those games, because then they're going to go out west, play Washington, who's not very good. So, I mean, Indiana could win 5 or 6 games the rest of the way. I mean, they got the ability. It's just their track record hasn't proven that they can finish games out, which is what I thought up at Tuesday was probably the best thing for this team going forward, is they finally got a close game and got a win by making some free throws, and that'll be good for them going forward for sure.
Looking forward to it. Now, also, there is the elephant in the room. Indiana will be looking for a new coach at the end of the season. Boy, the names were flying, of course, as we expected they would be. I think that some of these are legitimate. Some are just not legitimate for various reasons, not because of being liked or not liked. There's financial reasons, this buyout, that buyout. But there are 2 names. Well, actually, there are 3 names, but I don't think that Brad Stevens should be in the conversation, because I don't think that he's realistic. I think that he's more than happy making $11.3 million in the NBA right now. No matter if the Celtics are under new ownership, they're not going to dump Brad Stevens. He might be the greatest mind in the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a name that it's going to get thrown out, but I don't think that's realistic. One, the guy's been coaching college basketball in 7-8 years. The entire landscape has changed. He never had to deal with this NIL thing, the transfer portal. So I'm not sure that's realistic at all. I mean, obviously he's a great basketball mind, and if you could get him, you could get him. But why do you leave the Celtics when you're running the Celtics to come and coach at Indiana? That's been kind of in a mess the last 12, 15 years.
Yeah, and he would have to be his own GM in essence with the transfer portal. And in the NBA, you know what you have. You have guys under contract, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, doesn't matter. They can't just transfer out after a season of not liking it. So that's something he wouldn't have to deal with. Dusty May, obviously, to me, is a name that has to be sitting at the top. Not because I think that it should be, but just because if you add all of things in, Dusty and his relationship to IU, but he's been a successful coach. He went to the Final Four at FAU. We know what he's doing at Michigan in his first season. There's no way that that's not Indiana's first call.
Well, I'm sure he's going to get a call, but I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. Is he the first call? I don't know.
I would just think that he would be. Who would you think that would be?
Oh, I think there's numerous guys. I think, I'll tell you a guy I'd make my first call to is Tony Bennett and see if he really is done coaching. But, Chris Beard will be on that list, I'm sure. Dusty May. I mean, there's a laundry list of 20 guys. And like you said, the name and the record and all that is a part of the factor in bringing in a guy. You have no idea what their buyouts are. You have no idea what their out clauses are in any of these contracts. And does a guy want to come to Indiana? I mean, those are things that you got to do. Me personally, you get a couple of guys, you make a phone call. If they don't want to do it, then let's go find a young guy that's going to hold guys accountable, that's going to be tough on kids, that's going to make guys be fundamentally sound and get back to running a program. This deal where you're going to go buy players every single year, go to the transfer portal, and you're not going to recruit any players to come in, that's not a program. That is a country club NBA style deal that isn't going to work. It just doesn't. It's been proven you can't get it done. You got to build a program. Look at what Purdue and Matt Painter's done. He's got a culture up there that works. Indiana has no culture anymore. It's all, let's just go get the best thing money can buy. And you're not winning with those guys, or you haven't proven that you can. So why not just go back to getting so-called 3-star and 4-star guys instead of going out and buying players?
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier for some guys, but
you don't have to recruit. You don't have to recruit if Indiana's got a bucket full of money and they're in the top 5 in NIL money. You don't have to go recruit. But if you want to build a program and get back to where you're winning year in and year out, and have continuity and build a culture that everybody's proud of, The transfer portal's add one guy maybe a year to help your team because you got a kid that left and went to the NBA early. Oh, we've got to fill that spot. Let's go to the transfer portal and do it. The best Indiana played the other night against Michigan, the best they played was when they had all 4 guys that had been around the program for 3 or 4 years, and they put in Tucker. None of the transfer guys were playing against Michigan when Indiana made their run in the second half. There's something to be said about that.
And Luke Goody has been a great addition.
Yeah, Luke Goody wasn't on the floor in the Michigan game either. And Luke Goody needs to keep his mouth shut and quit telling the fans what he knows and doesn't know. You know, he's blasting ex-players that have been around the program for 25 years, and those guys have done more than Luke Goody ever thought about doing at Indiana. Just keep your mouth shut, Luke, and go make shots and do what you're supposed to do. These guys all need to stay off of Twitter. They all need to stay off of Instagram. They all need to stay out of the bars, but part of that's the culture that's been built at Indiana. These guys hang out at the bars all the time. I know for a fact because my daughter was a waitress down at Kilroy's and saw them all the time.
And that is something that I'm not going to say never happened in the past, but it was
never
definitely
happened
not.
when I was there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
guys
it
went to
was
bars
not.
in the off season. They never went during the season.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that there's been other things like the issue at the casino early on down in the Bahamas,
if that actually happened, that there should have been a real big uproar on that. The stuff that you're hearing is why there needs to be a change. If 1/10 of what you hear, and again, those are all rumors, but if 1/10 of what you're hearing is true, the change has to be made, and it's going to be made.
Yeah, there's no question about that because you mentioned not having culture, not having discipline. That stuff comes through when you see the guys chirping with each other a lot on the floor. Coaches chirping with each other is surprising, and then not having people not knowing what they were doing. The end of the Maryland game was probably the quintessential representation of what's going on, where nobody knew who's in, who's not in, who needs to be in, what are we doing? All of that came to a head, and it's like, how are you not prepared ahead of time?
That was a total disaster. One thing that Coach Knight always taught us, and this was ingrained in our mind, if there is less than 3 seconds and the other team makes a shot, you call a timeout. Otherwise, get it and go and don't let the D set up. So then my question would be, what happened up at Purdue? If Purdue was a situation where I was trying to get Miles Rice's attention to do what? To call timeout?
Yeah.
Well, you're allowed as a coach to call timeout. Why didn't you just call a timeout? When I was done, Jim, when I was done with this was the Illinois game. We give up 60 points in the first half of Illinois. At home, get totally blasted. And who starts the second half? The same starters that got us down. That was when I was done. That second half should have been the starters of every single walk-on on that team, and every guy that played in the first half of Illinois should have sat and watched. That was disgraceful. That they ripped out the same starting lineup that just gave up 60 points. It's embarrassing. I'm too worried that these guys are going to leave. Why do you care if a guy's going to leave if you're 5-8 in the Big Ten? Who cares if they leave?
Yeah, I don't see anybody being left on this team after the season, to be honest with you.
Who's going to pay them as much as they're making now?
Nobody. And I don't know I don't think that there's anybody that you would want back from that who has been through that culture, who has been allowed to do the things that they've been able to do.
Look, Tucker's a very good player. I think Tucker could do a lot of good things. He's got a great mid-range game. He can get his own shot. Does Goody if Goody's got a year of eligibility left? Yes. Miles Rice, yes. Bring these guys back. Renew, if he's got another year, bring him back. But they got to be coached, and they got to be, in the stuff some of this stuff, Jim, is from when you're losing. There's no doubt about it. You get frustrated. Guys start barking at each other. It is frustrating. It's hard. So that's why I want to see a win like Tuesday could change this whole season around. And you can only get after him so many times. At some point, Coach Woody is probably on these guys and demanding stuff, but at some point they just tune it out, and you got to have some success. And once you get a little success, it starts breeding success, and maybe that's what's going to happen here. I literally, if Indiana will play like they played the other night, get the ball inside without this high pick and roll stuff, because you're running a high pick and roll with a guy who can't shoot. I mean, it blows my mind that coaches in the Big Ten do not go under the ball of the screen when Galloway's dribbling. Why would you ever give Galloway an opportunity to get around the corner and throw a lob and shoot the runner, which he's good at? He can't shoot 3-point shots. So go under the screen and beg him to shoot it. The lack of coaching on some of this stuff just blows my mind in the Big Ten. But, you know, you set up and you say, okay, we're going inside and we're pounding it inside, and this is how we're going to play the rest of the way. Indiana's going to get people in foul trouble, and they have the ability to score inside. So, you know, who knows? They could win 3 in a row at home real easy.
Yeah, and that would be good for this team, this program. But there's no doubt we've talked about the change that is coming, which this will be the third coach Indiana's hired in 8 years now, after Archie Miller, then Mike Woodson. This hire has to be right. They had so many opportunities, and the NIL and the transfer portal have actually, to me, given Indiana a golden ticket to kind of bounce back to being Indiana, but just haven't taken advantage of it.
For sure. You can definitely build and get back much quicker now at the portal and the NIL. Now, Scott Dolson, the university, the board of trustees needs to get out of the way. They made the Mike Woodson hire. Scott Dolson did not make the Mike Woodson hire. They just, and let's not kid ourselves. That was a Quinn Buckner hire and a Steve Ferguson hire. No doubt about it. And they need to get out of the way and let Scott do his job. Scott found Kurt Signetti. I think everybody says, look, great hire. Give Scott the ability to go do what he was hired to do. He knows what the Indiana basketball culture's been. He was a manager there for 4 years. He's been around the program forever. Scott knows. So let him do his job. And we don't need this nepotism and I'm getting my best friend in here and whatnot. Look, when Woody was hired, I was all for it because it was an Indiana Bob Knight guy. But it didn't work, and everybody just needs to say it didn't work. And now let's go get the best guy for the job, whether it's an Indiana guy or not. But, you know, it's time to move on and get somebody in there that's going to recruit, get somebody that's going to hold guys accountable. There's no accountability because if Umar Bala was out at the bars, again, you can do who knows what can happen with pictures and everything. But if he was out at the bars the Friday night before a Saturday noon game, he should have not been playing for more than one game. I mean, when's it stop?
Oh, exactly. Stop. Because that promotes that behavior when you don't do something about it. And I love having people like you and Todd Leary on. You guys are so knowledgeable about the game, and naturally, from what you've done, it really befuddles my mind when we see something like how Mike has handled these 4 years, because everybody I talk to just is like, oh, I don't get why they're not doing these simple things that a lot of times fans are asking the same questions. It's kind of is it because he just spent so long away from the college game, away from what his roots were?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, he's an NBA guy, which is great. I mean, you don't hang around and coach in the NBA for as long as he did. But I mean, when this hire got made, Mike Woodson's name never crossed my mind. I didn't even think he wanted to coach in college, but it wasn't like anybody in the NBA was dying to hire him. This kind of got pushed down Indiana's throat by the board of trustees and a couple of guys that were on there. And it didn't work. Okay. It's okay to say it didn't work. And that's all right. But it's time to move on, and you got to get somebody in here who's going to be tough and hold kids accountable. And with this NIL money and the transfer portal, you can get things going pretty quickly. The question becomes, are you held hostage because we are now paying guys? I mean, I want to know what happens if you say, hey, guess what? So-and-so, we're paying you X amount of dollars. You're not getting it done. I don't care if you leave, see you later, and you're not getting your money.
Yeah, there should be clauses that you have to do. And I think this goes for coaches. They have all of these incentives for winning, but there's no disincentivization for losing.
Yeah, and you know, that's what I don't get about this NIL deal. So you can just show up to practice and say, I don't feel like practicing today. Well, if that happens, that guy shouldn't play. And then
of course not.
I don't want to hear any coach ever say, well, I'm being told that I got to play this kid because we're paying him so much money. No, you don't. If the kid leaves, he leaves. Who cares? You're not winning with him. So why do you care if he stays?
Here's a great question, Joe. Chris Beard, obviously a great coach, he's done great things. He took Texas Tech to the national championship game. He lost his job at Texas for reasons that we have heard and don't know all of but
was Chris Beard ever charged? Was Chris Beard ever charged with anything?
There were no charges. Whatever charges there were dropped.
Okay. So what are we talking about? I mean, Indiana was okay with bringing in Kelvin Sampson. Chris Beard was never charged with anything. Now, did he do so? Who knows? I guess we'll never know. But You know what? Every guy's got skeletons in the closet.
The fact that he would crawl to Bloomington, Joe, he is a guy you were talking about earlier. He wants to be in Bloomington. He wants to be at Indiana without question.
I mean, the guy can coach. And again, you want to dig up skeletons and everybody, that's fine. I can tell you this. If you win, you think anybody's going to care what happened 10 years ago, 12 years ago? No, they're not. Because if you win, it's going to be okay. But again, he wasn't charged with anything, so I don't know. He would be a guy on my list. I can tell you that. He'd be on my top 3 or 4 guys to call for sure.
And he fits in a lot of different ways. Not only does he win, he's been successful at multiple schools. What he's doing at Ole Miss is pretty amazing, to be honest, Joe. He inherited a 13-22 team. His first season, they started 15-0 last season. This year, he had them ranked in the top 25, still ranked in the top 25. They're number 19. They go on the road, get a win last night. They're 19-6 in the toughest conference in America. And so
he's done a great job, but then go look at what Dusty May's done in flipping that Michigan thing.
No, exactly. So Indiana, before their options weren't that great. Right now, it seems like they have at least 2 great options that they can choose from, that either Dusty turns it down, or if they offer Chris Beard first, well, he'll take the damn job. There's no question. He would crawl over broken glass for this job. People that think that people don't want to come to Indiana, you're out of your mind. I tell people this is a sleeping giant that it is just waiting to explode again, and it will.
That's why I say give Tony Bennett a call. Tony Bennett walked away at Virginia because I don't think they can compete on the NIL level. And Indiana will be able to compete on that. So that's why it's going to be an attractive job, because this thing's going to go to this profit sharing deal. This thing's going to go into all of this stuff where NIL is still going to be a part of it. But if you don't have the funds and the money to do that, can you compete at the highest level? You better have a really good coach who's able to get more out of his players than he can. I think you're seeing that with Chris Bird down in Mississippi. I don't know what I would think that Michigan's got a good pool of NIL money. But Dusty May brought in some guys, and obviously he's created a different culture up there that's working. And again, there's numerous guys you can call, or you could just say, you know what, we are completely starting over. I'm going to go get a 35, 36-year-old guy who's tough on kids, who's going to coach kids. We're going to go recruit kids in Indiana and the Midwest, and we're going to add a couple pieces here. And it's going to take us 2 or 3 more years to get the thing going. But I don't know if Indiana has the patience to do that.
Well, it shouldn't, though. That's the thing, because you see guys like Dusty, like Pat Kelsey at Louisville, like Mark Pope at Kentucky, and there are others. Look what Rick Pitino is doing at St. John's. I mean, it's nuts. The right coach, the right guy. They don't need Kirk Cignetti. Are you kidding me? Indiana football was not even a program. It was a corpse. And look what he did with that, and we'll do with that again this year. So you get the right guy, and Kirk Cignetti was the right guy. You need someone like that. Is there anybody that's out there that you're like, no, I just don't think that's a good fit for Indiana or whatever?
Bro, I would say no.
Is that because of his age?
Yeah, his age, and I mean, I don't think that, and I know Bruce Pearl really, really well. He was Tom Davis's head assistant when he recruited me in high school, when they were at Stanford. And that name's gonna get thrown out. I just don't think Brad Stevens to me is I just don't see it. So Scott will have people I'm sure he's going to talk to and run things by, but hopefully this is going to be his decision this time and not the Board of Trustees' decision.
Well, I can say that I think that a preponderance of the average fans, their pick is actually Chris Beard. From all of the things I've seen, we've got a poll on the Hoosier.com that Chris Beard is like 47%, and it is far and away he is the selection. But I think part of that is because he reminds the older fan base of Bob Knight in a way, because he's kind of the closest to that in the way they play defense, in his aggressive style, but also he always pays homage to Bob Knight, including when he just recently beat Kentucky's butt at halftime. He brought up, busted, that's just Bob Knight and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't think that was accidental, but
no, that wasn't accidental. I'm sure.
But he wants this job. I mean, and so that in and of itself. But I mean, he's a quality candidate that wants the job. It's hard to turn that down, in my opinion, especially with his track record.
Again, it'll be an interesting, and you know what? Maybe Scott's already got his guy. I don't know. I have no idea. For some reason they decided to do this thing now with Woody.
Well, I think that was because of Dusty May and Michigan coming in. It was already going to be awkward, but unfortunately it didn't get less awkward with how they did it, with how Woody handled it, I think, because it wasn't really, they put out the statement that Woody had decided, well, yeah, right. Okay. Whatever you want to say. I don't think anybody.
This was a forced retirement.
And so if you're going to do that at the end of the year. I don't know that doing that in the middle. Maybe it did. Maybe they should have made this announcement a few games back, Joe.
Watch him. Maybe this freed these kids up to go play, and maybe that all this talk and all this stuff is going to help them play better going forward. It might. I mean, they've actually played pretty good the last, 60 minutes. The second half of the Michigan game, they played pretty well. And they played some good basketball up at Michigan State. So, maybe that's a big help.
Yeah, it would be amazing to see Todd Leary, Brian Evans, and Joe Hillman on the sidelines for Indiana. How would that go between you three minds? Different, kind of not completely different eras, but kind of successive eras.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work.
I could see three heads butting together pretty consistently.
I would take it and take the money these guys make these days. That's for sure.
Well, you ain't lying there. Well, nothing else. That team would be tougher than nails.
Well, we would block out, we'd defend, and we'd have some shooters.
This team. That's toughness is just not something this team seems to have much of the time. Every now and then they'll show it, but they just don't seem to have this innate toughness.
Yeah, and I think that's ingrained in the culture of the program. I just do, and that's just not what it's about anymore. We're not hard.
And
we are not hard to play against. Just guys dribble right to the lane. Well, when you give up 60 at home, that tells you we're not very tough to play against. I mean, that's just inexcusable, and a mental. Coach Knight used to say, "Mental is to physical as 4 is to 1," meaning if you are mentally tougher than the other team, you are going to beat teams that are more athletic than you, have better ability, more talent. You're still going to beat them. We now have a lot of talent, and we don't have that toughness anymore that just says, you know what, I'm going to grit my teeth. You're not driving by me, and you're not getting a rebound because I'm going to block you out. And there's a real deal as far as, to me, on a mental toughness side is just because you're open doesn't mean you shoot the ball with 20 seconds on the shot clock. If you can't shoot, don't shoot it. Drive to the hoop. You can, what people don't understand is you can be a big asset to a team without scoring. You don't have to score to help the team.
You are a perfect example of that. You scored 44 points a game in high school, but you come to Indiana and you filled a role that Bob Knight wanted you to play, which was a defense, facilitator, or whatever it took.
You had to do that to play. And you know, I'll just give you an example. Galloway, I usually don't like bashing players in college, but these guys are getting paid now. Galloway should never three-point shot unless there's 2 seconds on the shot clock. He's not a three-point shooter. He's not. So quit shooting threes. Get the ball to the basket. He could average 10 real easy by getting a steal and a dunk, which he did the other night, driving down the lane, getting a bucket, making a little floater. All of a sudden now you get a rebound put back, and you got 8 or 10 points. He doesn't need to shoot threes because he can't make them. I'll bet if you go back and look at Galloway's stats for the year on the three-point line, I'll guarantee you 7 or 8 or 9 of his makes this year, maybe even more, are with less than 2 minutes to go and we're down 20. Who cares? He shouldn't even be in the game at that point. I'll tell you another embarrassing thing, Jim, that I saw that I just couldn't believe was the night that we played up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin brings in their third-string guys, walk-on guys, and we decided to put in our first starters, and then all of a sudden we decide to press down 20. I mean, what is that? Why are we not clearing the bench? Mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is crazy. Strive Financial Group, Strive FG, www.strivefg.com is where you can find Mr. Joe Hillman. And if you need some financial assistance, advice, he can take care of that, especially companies or individuals either, right?
Yep. We do a lot of retirement income strategies and a lot of tax strategies. So that's what we specialize in, and that's where we can help people out.
You need to get in contact with these basketball players, bro, or actually all the athletes. The money they are making these days, it's mind-boggling.
Yep. And hopefully they're doing something with these payments and going to be able to pay their taxes, because I do worry about that a little bit, that they get this money and they don't realize they're going to have to give 30% to the government, and all of a sudden they're going to have a big bill. But
should they set that up and do that ahead of time? I think so.
They should make it like all these 1099, or I'm sure they're 1099 payments, but any of these NIL payments, they should treat them like a W-2 and take so much out, put it aside so that they can pay in April.
I think that schools should have people like yourself that are in this business. Man, they should have group sessions and meetings and bring people like you in to talk to these athletes. I know they probably do, but it's you guys that they should be bringing in.
Yeah, they probably do. But also you got to remember the school's really not supposed to be involved in NIL payments.
Well, that changes. That changes.
That does change. So it'll be interesting. And I might throw some out at Scott Dolson and say, hey, look, you need to bring us in.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, but that's all right.
Absolutely. Joe Hillman, I cannot thank you enough, brother. You are always great, and owe you one at Nick's the next time you're in town for a game.
All right, Jim. Good talking to you.
Is your daughter still in school?
Nope. She graduated.
She gone. All right. Well, mine's a senior, but she's down at Ole Miss. So appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy your day. I thank you so much.
Yep. See you. Bye.
You bet. Joe Hillman joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Cannot thank him enough. He's just one of the greats. He is somebody who came from California, but has become more of a Hoosier than, and by Hoosier, I mean a person from the state of Indiana, all that stuff than anybody. He never left. He is all about it. He knows the history. He is just a quintessential Indiana type guy. And Indiana is lucky and fortunate to have someone like him in their camp. Man, I can't thank everybody enough. Today, it was a blast. Looking forward to tomorrow. We got another former player on. Of course, that's Todd Leary, as he joins us each and every Friday, but in the same mold as first time we'll get to talk to him since this announcement has come. But Zach Osterman as well. Enjoy your day. Go out and have a great one. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the birthday wishes yesterday. I tried to ignore it as much as I could, but thankful. No, nonetheless, appreciate you for being with us today. We're back tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.